Okay, so let's start today's lesson, which will continue on with what we discussed last time. Okay, so last meeting we discussed the polar form. Okay, we discussed the polar form of your complex number. Okay, so again, ano na lang. Again, as we recall, okay, the polar form of the complex number converts your rectangular coordinates xy. Okay, um, it converts the rectangular coordinates x y, which is represented by the number x by the complex number x plus iy, okay, into the polar form, which is r theta. Okay, r is the magnitude of your complex number, okay, while theta is the angle or the argument of your complex number. Okay, so this now takes the form r cosine theta plus I sine theta, okay, which has the shorthand notation r equals r bar angle theta. So we have already known paano natin kinukuha yung r tsaka yung theta nito. That is we compute r, okay, as the square root of x squared plus y squared, and your theta as the arctangent of y over x. Okay, with a special requirement for your theta to be greater than negative 180 degrees, okay, but less than or equal to 180 degrees. That's in degrees. In terms of radians, that should be negative pi, okay, up to positive pi. Okay, so this is the polar form. Okay, now we will try to we will study or we will discuss yung third form of your complex number, which is now known as the exponential form or the exponential form of the complex number. Okay, now this form of the complex number and all the properties that would come up as a result of writing your complex number into the exponential form would actually be very useful when we try to evaluate functions, okay, having complex numbers as their arguments. For example, after the along this trajectory, pag-aaralan natin yung how do you evaluate, say for example, the cosine of a number z, where z is a complex number. So for us to be able to do this, we need to first study the exponential form of complex numbers and the properties that go through it. Okay, so what we will do, okay, what we will have to do is we will simply extend, okay, we will simply extend the definition of your exponential number, okay, or your real exponential number, which has the form, pray ko muna to. Okay, so we have the real exponential number e raised to x, okay. I-extend lang natin siya. That is by multiplying this, okay, by multiplying this with cosine y plus I sine y. Okay, so that extends now your exponential function, okay, into the realm of complex numbers. So basically, ito yung tatawagin natin ngayong e raised to z. Okay, that would be our e raised to z. And here, we mean that z is actually equal to x plus iy. Okay, so is that clear? Okay, so this is easy to understand naman kasi if we actually have e raised to z, okay, that means this becomes e raised to x plus iy. Yun yung ibig sabihin nun. Okay? Now, we will have by using the properties of exponents. Okay, we know for a fact that we can rewrite this into e raised to x times e raised to iy. Okay? Maliwanag to? This is simply applying the property of your exponents, saying that the product of two numbers raised to a certain exponent is equal to the is equal to the sum is equal to the base raised to the power of the sum of their exponents. So parang in-apply lang natin yung x raised to m plus n, okay, equals x raised to m times x raised to n. Okay, in-apply lang natin siya dito sa definition na to. Now, from here, we can see now what would be the value of this one. Okay, what would be the value of this one? Okay, which in turn that gives us, okay, that should give us the this definition. Okay, that should give us that definition. Okay, so maliwanag to? Kasi kung titingnan nyo, kung equal si e raised to z, okay, kay e raised to x times cosine of y plus I sine of y, tapos equal din siya kay e raised to x times e raised to iy based dito. Okay. By equating the factors, of course, e raised to x is equal to this one. Okay. So it would follow that itong term na to or itong factor na to is actually equal to this factor. That is why we have this one as your Euler's formula. Okay? So yun yung consequence nung definition natin from this one. Okay? Is that clear? Okay. Now, in the same manner, okay, if we write now, since the polar form of your complex number, okay, the polar form of your complex number is this one. Okay, as we have studied in the previous lesson. Okay. Again, equating that to this definition, we shall see that the exponential form, okay, the exponential form of your complex number can be written as r times cosine of theta plus I sine of theta. Okay, that's the polar form. Okay? Pero dahil nga ito, okay, ay equal nga sa e raised to x, okay, times e raised to sadali lang. Ayun na nga, basta yun. We have this as your complex form. Exponential form of your complex number. Okay? So, yung r dito, r here, is the same as the r that is defined in the polar form. So, still, yung r dito, sa z equals r e raised to I theta. Okay? Yung r here is still the magnitude, okay, and is still equal to square root of x square plus y square. Pareho lang nung sa polar form. Okay. Yung angle, yung theta here, okay, is still the angle, okay, which is the same definition din. Okay? The same definition din with the angle that is discussed for the polar form. Okay? X pala ginagamit ko. y over x. Yan. But there is a subtle difference, okay, between yung angle ng polar form tsaka yung angle ng exponential form. Okay? So yung angle ng polar form, pwede kayong mag-degrees, pwede kayong mag radians. Okay? Take note na dito sa polar form ninyo, this angle, okay, can be written in terms of degrees, okay, or measured in terms of degrees. It can be also measured in terms of radians. That's for the polar form. Now, for the exponential form, strictly, this angle is to be defined only or measured only in terms of radians. So we cannot use, okay, we cannot use degrees, okay, for this for the exponential form. And we understand that we should understand that all angles, okay, that are written or that is written for the complex exponential form is always in radians. Okay? For example, if you write here, say meron ka number like 4e raised to I 40 degrees, okay, is invalid. Kahit lagyan nyo pa ng degrees yan, okay, kahit lagyan nyo pa ng degrees yan, hindi yan tatama, hindi tatama tong expression na yan. Okay? Maliwanag yun. Okay. So this expression, remember that this expression is very wrong. This is a very wrong expression. Even if lagyan nyo ng unit yan, okay, that will not work. Okay? The proper way to write this, okay, the proper way to write this is this one. 4e raised to I times 40 pi over 180. Okay? Because yung factor na pi over 180 converts 40 degrees, okay, into radians. Tama ba yun? Okay, so remember ha, the factor pi over 180 degrees, okay, converts angles or angle measurements saglit lang. Angle measurements from degrees to radians. So, or otherwise, kung nagka-calculator kayo, okay, kung nagka-calculator kayo, then simply set your calculator to radians. Okay? Yun nga lang, be very careful. Okay? Be very careful sa especially kung sanay kayong gumamit ng degrees, more especially if sanay kayong if you are used to using degree measurements, okay, for angles in polar form as katulad nung ginagawa natin before. Okay? So, alam niyo naman that one of the field of an engineering student, okay, is after nila mag-exam, okay, marirealize nila na yung calculator nila ay naka-degrees, pero ang kailangan nila naka-radian siya. Okay? So, lagi niyong i-check, always check your calculator kung anong angular measurement ninyo, kung anong angular measurement ang ginagamit ninyo. Okay? Is that clear? So, let us write it here. Angle measurements used in the exponential form of complex numbers is always in radians. Yan, lagi na tatandaan ito. Okay? So I hope maliwanag yan ha. At huwag niyong kakalimutan yan. Okay? Now, so we're clear, hopefully we're now clear on the definition of your polar form. Okay? So it should be noted that by definition, okay, by definition, this number or this equality holds true. Okay? So paano nangyari yan? Paano nangyari that E 2 pi I E raised to 2 pi I, okay, is equal to 1. So paano nangyari yan? Okay, so we take note that E raised to I theta equals cosine of theta plus I sine of theta. Okay? So ito yung tinatawag nating Euler's formula. Okay. Now, applying this formula into the left side of this equation, okay, should give us cosine of 2 pi, okay, plus I sine of 2 pi, which ano yung value ng cosine of 2 pi? Again, this is 2 pi. Wala siyang unit. So, it means this should be in radians. So, pag ginamitan nyo ng calculator, make sure that your calculator is in radian mode. So that it would read 2 pi as radians. So, ano yung value ng cosine of 2 pi radian?
1 po.
This is 1. Okay? Plus, ano yung value ng sine of 2 pi?
0.
That is 0. So this is 0i, which is the real number 1. Okay? So therefore, tama yung equality niyan. Okay, is that clear? Okay. So, ayun. So I hope that clears it up. Okay. And also, please verify the following equalities. Okay. That E raised to pi I over 2 is equal to I. Okay. E raised to pi I, okay, equals negative 1. Okay. E raised to negative pi I over 2 is negative I. Okay, and E raised to negative pi over 1, E raised to negative pi I is equal to negative 1. Okay? Actually, you can prove it in two ways. Okay, you can prove it in two ways. Una, yung using the Euler's formulas, similar to what I did here. Okay? Pero another way to actually prove this one is this. Okay. Pwede nyong gamitan ng geometric interpretation yan. Okay. 2 pi here, okay, means the angle. The angle that the number makes with the x-axis. Okay? Yun pa rin naman yun. Yung angle dito, okay, this angle, okay, is still theta. Which the angle, again, this is of the same definition of the angle that is defined when we discuss the polar form. Okay, so this is still the angle that the number or the radial line connecting the number and the origin. Okay. With respect to the positive x-axis. Okay? And again, pag positive yan, we measure that angle counterclockwise. If this angle is negative, we measure that clockwise. Okay? So, yung angle na 2 pi, okay, where can I locate that one? So, dito, sa coordinate system, saan ko siya makikita? So, halimbawa, di tayo magsisimula. Tapos, since positive yan, we have to go counterclockwise. Okay? So, kung ang angle measurement ko is 2 pi, saan ako magtatapos? Saan point dito ako magtatapos? Anyone? Oh, ano nangyari? Kung ang angle measurement niya ay 2 pi, anong degree equal lang ano? Sa degree measurement, saan equal ang 2 pi radians?
Sir.
This is 360 degrees.
60 degrees.
Okay. So it would end up at what? At where? Saan matatapos?
Doon din po, sir, sa may.
So I would end up at the same point. Okay? I would end up at the same point. Is that clear?
Yes.
Yun. So, yung ibig sabihin ng 2 pi kasi would end up, would have your angle 360 degrees. So, pag inikot nyo yan, babalik lang din kayo dun sa original point ninyo. Okay? So, in that case, the angle here, okay, the angle here is 2 pi. Okay? Ngayon, ang tanong, ano yung magnitude? Ito kasi yung magnitude. The magnitude is the length of the line connecting, okay, the origin and the number. So, ang tanong, gaano kahaba yan? We say that this is R, right? Okay. So, kung titingnan natin, based sa definition dito, okay, based sa definition na to, that your Z, okay, that your Z equals R E raised to J raised to I theta raised to I theta, okay? At ang given ninyong Z ay E raised to 2 pi I. Obviously, again, theta here is 2 pi. Okay, base dito ha. Ikumpara nyo to dito. Okay? So, theta here is 2 pi. How about the value of R? What is R? Dito, base dito. Ano yung value? Ano ulit?
1 po, sir.
So the value of R is 1. Kasi ito, tsaka to, yan yung pareho. So since you cannot see the coefficient here, or the number here, that means that's 1. Maliwanag ba yan? Okay. So if R is 1, okay, if R is 1 and theta is 2 pi, okay, so in polar form, that means this number, okay, is also equal to 1 bar angle 2 pi. Okay. The question is, ano yung coordinate ngayon nito? Based dun sa nahanap nating polar form, ano yung rectangular coordinates niya? So sabi nga nung R, ang layo niya galing sa origin ay 1. So ano yung x-coordinate? Ano yung x-coordinate natin?
1 po.
That would be 1. Okay, very good. How about the y-coordinate?
0 po.
So yung y-coordinate natin is 0. So therefore, this is 1, 0. Yung coordinate niyan is 1, 0. And therefore, that number in rectangular form is what is that number in rectangular form? Ito yung coordinates niya. So kung yun yung coordinates niya, ano yung number na yun in rectangular form?
1 po.
1 plus pakikumpleto sa complex notation. 1 plus
1 plus 0, sir.
0
0
Ay.
I. Ayun. Kaya mag-verify natin ito. At saka to, pareho sila. So therefore, the number e raised to 2 pi I actually pertains to the point of this. Okay? So actually kaya ko inano to kasi kailangan sa mga gantong it really needs your mastery. Okay? This really needs your mastery kasi if you would actually not interpret this in terms of its geometry, okay, in terms of its coordinate in terms of the coordinate system, mahihirapan din kayong intindihin siya conceptually. Okay? So that is why you have to understand it in terms of the formula katulad ng ginawa ko dito kanina. Okay, but you also have to be able to interpret it in terms of the coordinates. Okay, so that is why halimbawa ito. Kung medyo na-master nyo na yun, madali itong hanapin. Okay? That's e raised to pi I over 2. Diba? Ano ngayon yung angle nito? What is the angle of this number?
Pi over 2 po.
This is pi over 2. In degrees, this is
90 degrees.
90.
90 degrees. Very good. Okay. What is R?
1 po.
1. Okay. So, kung ilolocate ko ngayon yan sa kung ilolocate ko yung point na yan o yung number na yan sa Cartesian plane, okay? Ay. 1 yung radius niya, okay? So from here up to where it ends, dapat 1 yung haba nun. Okay? But the angle that it makes with respect to the positive y-axis is 90 degrees. So saan ako matatapos? Kung magsisimula ako dito.
Y-axis po.
So I'll end up So I'll end up at from here, I'll end up here at the positive y-axis. Okay? So lalabas ngayon, from here dapat 1 siya kasi that's the radius eh. So ito yung point ngayon na yan. Ano ngayon yung coordinate niyan? What is the coordinate of that point?
0 and 1.
0 and 1. Very good. So therefore, this number is written as what number in rectangular form? 0 plus
1i.
1i or 0 plus I. Or simply, this is I. Yun yung makikita natin dito. Yan. Ito siya. 0 plus I. So ito ngayon siya. Okay? So in a similar manner, dapat ma-locate nyo rin itong mga numbers na to. Okay? Is that clear? Okay. So, as a result of the definition, okay, of this one, okay, from number 5, we shall see that the magnitude, okay, that the magnitude of e raised to iy, okay, is 1, okay, and it's the angle, the magnitude of e raised to iy is 1, katulad nung nakita nyo dito, okay, katulad nung ginagawa natin dito kanina, okay. Ito. Tsaka ito. Okay, so nakita natin that since this is r e raised to I theta, okay, and since hindi natin nakikita yung coefficient niya dito, so that means that r is equal to 1. Okay, it can actually be derived from the fact that if you have e raised to iy, that is equal to cosine y plus I sine of y, okay, and if you take the magnitude of that, okay, so bali lalabas ito kasi yung kumbaga parang pwede nyong to as a triangle wherein ito yung x coordinate niya, ito yung y coordinate niya. Okay? So therefore, if you're looking for r, that is x squared plus y squared. Okay? And since x is cosine of y, okay, and y is sine of y, okay, so you would have something like this one. And again, if you would evaluate cosine square y plus sine square y, that's equal to 1. So therefore, yung square ng 1 is 1. So that is why yung magnitude ng e raised to iy is equal to 1. Okay? And then, going back, okay, dun sa kaninang definition natin, that is, since you have e raised to z equals e raised to x, okay, times e raised to x plus iy, okay, and then we have e raised to x times e raised to iy using the properties of exponentiation, okay. From there, you would have the magnitude of e raised to z, okay, equals e raised to x, okay. Dahil nga, again, ito at saka yung form ng r e raised to I theta, okay, kung i-compare nyo to dito, itong factor na to is similar to this factor, so therefore lalabas r equals e raised to x. Again, what is r? R is the magnitude of this number. Okay, is that clear? Now, there is something special, okay, with regards to the angle, okay, the angle of this number, to the angle of e raised to z, okay. So, ito yung special thing about that. That e raised to z, okay. Again, this is equal to e raised to x times e raised to iy. Okay? So, again, we know for a fact that your y, okay, your y corresponds to the angle, okay, to the here, okay, it would correspond to the angle, okay, which can be written in the polar form as cosine, okay, this e raised to iy can be written in the polar form as cosine of y plus I sine of y. Now here's the thing. Since both cosine and sine are periodic functions. What do we mean by periodic functions? Or what do we mean by something that is periodic? Anyone?
Fix po ba, sir, yung interval pag periodic?
Sige. Fixed. May iba pa ba kayong idea? Anyone? May iba pa kayong idea tungkol sa sa pag sinabi niyo ang isang bagay or ang isang quantity, for example, is periodic? Ayun. So, ano nangyari sa ating algebra trigonometry? Okay. Pag sinabi niyong periodic, okay, when you say something is periodic, it means that something is or tends to repeat after, okay, it tends to repeat after a certain interval. So, ayan. So, I am not really sure kung yung sinabi ni Miss Cordova ba yan? Tama ba? Yung sinabi ni Miss Cordova regarding sa fix, kung pareho tayo ng interpretation. Okay, pero baka kasi ito rin yung pagkakaintindi mo, kaya lang, yung term lang na ginamit mo, that it is fixed. Okay, baka you mean, it means it repeats. Okay, it means that when something is periodic, okay, when a quantity or a phenomenon is periodic, it means that that phenomenon or that quantity would have the same value, okay, or would have the same would have the same value at a certain point in time. Okay, so that is why in-interpret natin na itong cosine at saka itong sine ay pareho periodic. Okay, ganito kasi yan. Sadali lang kukuha lang ako ng graphing tool. This is what is really good about conducting a class that is over an online platform. Okay. Marami ng computer aided tools na pwedeng gamitin, which is really helpful, especially for me when I'm trying to make a point. Imagine niyo na lang na kung ito ay classroom, I have to make a graph of the cosine function and of the sine function sa board. Okay? Nakita niyo naman kung paano ako magsulat, di ba? Nakita niyo naman kung paano ako magsulat. So, although hindi ganyan ang sulat ko sa board, pero more or less malapit siya dyan. Okay, so hindi helpful minsan yung mga dinrawing ko sa board when I'm trying to drive a point, minsan hindi siya helpful dahil hindi ako maganda mag-drawing. Pero since may graphing tool ako ngayon, sandali lang. Ayan. Okay. So again, pag sinabi niyo ang isang phenomenon ay periodic or ang isang function in terms of math, okay? Mathematical function. When something is periodic, okay? That function would have the same value, okay, at a certain point in an interval. Okay. So say for example, let's start at this point. This is the cosine function, no? Okay. So let us start at this point. So at 0, okay, at x equals 0, okay, yun lang problema, hindi ko siya masusulatan ng pen. Okay, at x equals 0, okay, the value of that function is 1. Okay, now, if we actually if we actually move your point, okay, along this graph, okay, if you actually move your point along this graph, okay, ayan, you would see that after some time, okay, after some values of x that would pass by, okay, that value tends to repeat. Okay, and the value of x when that repeats is at x equals 6.27. Okay, pero actually that's 2 pi. Okay, that's actually 2 pi. Okay, so ayan, 2 pi siya, ayan. Okay, so i-ano ko lang to i-screenshot ko lang to. Tapos lagay natin siya So this is what I mean by the function or a function is periodic. Okay. So from here, when the value of your x coordinate, okay, when the value of your x coordinate when the value of x, okay, is 0, okay. So when the value at this point, no, when the value of x equals 0, okay, the value of your function, okay, y is equal to 1, okay, and then after some point, if the value of your x is 2 pi, okay, the value of your y is 1, okay, and if you notice that pag in-extend ko yan, okay, when I extend that idea or when I extend the graph, okay, so ito yung 2 pi, no? Okay, when I actually do that again and increase the value of x, okay, at some point, yung value ng 1 na yun, uulit-ulit. Okay, that value of 1 again tends to repeat. Okay, and where will that happen? Okay, that would happen when x is 4 pi. So, kung titingnan nyo mabuti yung function niyo, okay, here, 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 and here, okay, at those points, okay, the value of your function is 1. Okay, so it means that for every x, okay, when your x equals 0, 2 pi, 4 pi, 6 pi, and so on, okay, the value of your function is 1. Okay, and here's the thing. So hindi lang siya dun sa point na yun na i-inspect. Actually, kumuha kayo ng ibang ng ibang points diyan. Say for example, ito. Kuha tayo medyo alanganin. Itong sa 1, when x equals 1. Okay? So when x equals 1, the value of your function is 0.54. Okay? Now, if we find the value of the function, okay, so mga dito yun, no? So at this point, the value of your x is 1, the value of your y, or the value of your function, okay, is approximately 0.54. Okay? Approximate na naman yan. So this is 0.54. Now, as we have been able to see with these points, okay, with these points and these points, okay, the value tends to repeat, okay, after how much interval? After how much x has changed?
2 pi po.
So the value tends to repeat when your x, okay, adds up to 2 pi from its previous value. Okay? So itong 2 pi na to, yun yung tinatawag nating periodicity of your function. Okay? And that periodicity should be consistent with all of the points. Okay? So that means that if I actually find, okay, or if I actually add 2 pi to this initial value, so what is the value of 1 plus 2 pi? Paki-compute nga to yung approximate value nito. What's the approximate value of 1 plus 2 pi? Anyone? Anong approximate value ng 1 plus 2 pi? Pa-calculate naman.
7.28 po.
28 po.
7.28.
28.
Okay. So, hanapin natin yung x equals 7.28 dito. Okay. So, from here, okay, let's find where, ilagay natin. 7.28, no? So, makita natin yan approximately dito. Yan, 7.28. Okay? So, approximately at that point, the value of the function is 0.54. Okay? Approximately the same as what is the value when x equals 1. Okay, so markahan natin yung points na yan. 1 at saka 0.54. Ay, sorry. Ayan. Tapos, we have 7.28. Okay? And 0.54. Okay. So, approximately, pareho sila ng value. Okay? And you can also confirm that by calculating it using a calculator. Kung gagamitan nyo ng calculator yan, mako-confirm nyo that the cosine of 1 radian, okay, is 0.54, and the cosine of 7.28 radians ay 0.54. Okay? So, that verifies that the periodicity of this function is indeed 2 pi. Kasi every 2 pi, change in the x coordinate, okay, the y value repeats. Okay? So that's it. That is how we interpret periodic functions. Okay? Is that clear? Okay. So, which brings me back dito sa point na to. Okay. So, since this is a sum of cosine and sine, both of which are periodic, take note cosine y is periodic. The periodicity of the cosine function is 2 pi. Okay. While the the periodicity of sine y is 2 pi. Okay. You can also verify that periodicity property, okay, by actually taking a look at the coordinate system. Okay? So kung titingnan niyo naman siya in terms of the coordinate system, ito yung periodicity niya. So you start here, for example. Now, you go 2 pi around the Cartesian plane. Okay? So that's around 2 pi. Okay? And then you'll end at the same value, or you'll end at the same point. Okay? Tapos, you go around, okay, you go around another 2 pi. Okay? So that means nakaikot ka na ng 4 pi, and you'll again end up at the same point. Okay? Naintindihan ba to? So from there, we interpret that cosine and sine functions, okay, are periodic, okay, with a periodicity of 2 pi. Okay? So that means that yung cosine of y plus I sine of y. Okay, this might be puzzling with you kasi ang diniscuss ko lang ay cosine at sine. Okay? But actually in reality, kapag nag-add kayo ng dalawang periodic functions, okay? If you add two periodic functions, the resulting sum, okay, will still be periodic. Okay? Now in this case kasi pareho siya ng periodicity. Okay? So that the sum or the composite sum would actually be also periodic, okay, with the same periodicity. Okay? Pero kapag magkaiba kasi ng periodicity, periodic pa rin siya, pero hindi na ito yung periodicity niya. So the value might be something like basta magkaiba siya. Okay? And you'll study that later on. Okay? Pag nag-aaral tayo sa signals. Okay, sa signal processing. That would be something that would be something like that would be studied sa kasi in relation to signals, every signal is actually a sum of cosine and sine functions. Okay? So kaya don't be puzzled kung diniscuss ko yung cosine has a periodicity of 2 pi and sine has a periodicity of 2 pi. So paano yung periodicity ng sum nila? Okay? Even if this is in the complex form. Okay? Still, their sum is periodic with a period of 2 pi. Okay? That also means that the number e, okay, raised to iy, okay, is also periodic. Okay? With a period of 2 pi. Okay? That means yung e raised to 2 pi I, okay, points to the same location as to where e raised to 4 pi I points to. Parehong point yung tinutukoy nito at saka nito. So parehong number yan, therefore they are equal. Okay? Same thing, yung e raised to 6 pi I, okay, also points to the same location as these other two. Again, may interpret nyo yan kung titingnan nyo siya sa coordinate system. Yung e raised to 2 pi I, as we have found out earlier, tumuturo yan sa location na 1, 0. Okay? Same thing with this one, e raised to 4 pi I. Pwede nyo computein yan. Cosine of 4 pi plus I sine of 4 pi. Ano yung value ng cosine of 4 pi? Ayun, may graph na pala tayo. The value of the cosine 4 pi, 4 pi, yan. The value of cosine 4 pi is 1. Okay? So, 1 ito. Plus, yung value ng sine 4 pi, let us have a separate value dito ng sine y equals sine x. So, yung sine ng 4 pi, that's pi over 2, 5 pi over 2, this is 3 pi, 4 pi. Okay? So, 4 pi, ang value ng sine 4 pi ay 0. So, therefore, this is I times 0 or 1 plus 0i. So, still, tumuturo pa rin siya dito. Okay? Same thing with this one. You can verify it with this formula. Okay? And hence, this is what you have to remember. Okay? This is what you have to remember. This one. Takpan ko na. I-rewrite ko lang to ha. This is argument of e raised to z equals y, okay, plus 2 pi n for n equals 0, 1, 2, and so on. Yan. Okay, so which means that the value of the angle of a number written in complex form, okay, repeats, okay, for every multiple of 2 pi changes in its value. Okay, that means, say for example, you start at y equals 0. This is this is your angle, no? So if you start y at 0, okay, if you add a multiple of 2 pi there, say for example, 2 pi times 10. This is a multiple of 2 pi, 2 pi. So in this case, your n equals 10. Okay? That means, okay, that the value, okay, that the value here is the same as when y is equal to 0. Okay? Is that clear? Class, sandali lang may kakausapin ako. But I hope that is that should be that clear things up with you. Okay, that when you see something like this one, okay, when you see a statement something like this one, okay, you should interpret it in terms of your angle repeating every multiple of 2 pi. Okay, or the value or your number repeating every 2 pi. Okay, because we will have to use that fact later on, especially when we evaluate logarithmic and trigonometric functions containing complex numbers. Okay, so later on may explain ko kung saan siya ginagamit doon. Okay, so if your number tends to have that property, okay, then we need to define a certain fundamental range. Okay? We need to define a certain fundamental range kasi yung palang angle natin, our angle tends to be or actually yung ating number is actually not a unique number when we're talking about writing it in exponential form. Okay, sandali lang. Sabi ko pala may kakasabi na, sandali lang. Saglit lang. Ayun. So, again, what I was saying is that kapag ang number ninyo, if your complex number is written in exponential form, okay, it raises a possibility of having your number being ambiguous, okay, because there are multiple ways to write one number, okay, into exponential form. Naintindihan yan? So mukhang hindi. Tama pagkain hindi ko sa hindi nyo pagre-react. Ganito siya. Ito yung coordinate system ninyo. Okay. Yan yung coordinate system ninyo. Ang isang point dyan, okay, one point there, okay, pertains to a unique complex number. Okay, that pertains to a unique complex number. Okay, so para hindi siya mahirap, gawin siyang quadrantal. Ayan. Okay. So say for example, Okay, this number is 0 plus I. Okay? That number is 0 plus I. Okay? So, again, a single point, okay, a single point in the Cartesian plane points to a unique number. Okay? Now, if you write your number in terms of rectangular coordinates or rectangular form, walang ambiguity na may encounter yung yung number niyo. Okay, there is no ambiguity in the number kasi a rectangle, the coordinates of this number will just point to a single location. So pag sinabi niyo ang location nito ay 0, 1, wala namang ibang 0, 1 diyan kundi ito lang. So therefore, this number is unique. Okay, is that clear? Naintindihan yung konsepto ng uniqueness of a number? Okay. So when you write your number in rectangular form, okay, that results to a unique location, okay? That results to a unique location in the Cartesian plane, and that also pertains to a unique number. Wala siyang ibang kapareho. Okay? So that's the thing about rectangular form. Pero if you write this in polar form or in exponential form, okay? So in polar form, this is written as a 1 bar angle 90 degrees. Okay? Or similarly, this is also equal to 1 bar angle pi over 2 radians. Okay? That's in polar form. And in exponential form, this is e raised to I times pi over 2. Okay? So this is in polar form, this is in exponential form. Now, the thing is that this is not only the expression, okay, that would result to this location. Kasi alam natin na this number would actually point to this location or to that location. Okay? Alam natin 'yan. But again, because of the periodic property, okay, of the angle, okay, which stems from the fact that this comes from periodic functions cosine and sine. Pag yan inikot nyo ng 2 pi, okay, that means yung pi over 2, the angle pi over 2, okay, is added to 2 pi. So that means inikot ko to ng clockwise. Okay, inikot ko ng clockwise yan. Okay, so ano yung result nito? This is 5 pi over 2, tama ba?
5 pi over 2 po.
Okay. So that means, okay, yung number that is written, okay, the number that is written as 1 bar angle 5 pi over 2 or e raised to I times pi 5 pi over 2. Itong number na to also points to this location. Okay? It also points to that location. Okay? So that means, your complex number is unique only when you write it in rectangular form. But it becomes ambiguous when you write it in complex or in exponential in polar or in exponential form. Because there is more than one way to represent the same number. Okay? Is that clear? Okay? A complex number written as in its rectangular form is unique. Okay? But is ambiguous when it is written in polar or exponential form. Okay? So you have to understand that. Okay. So that means that means yung number na 0 plus I, okay, can be written as e raised to I pi over 2 or e raised to I 5 pi over 2 or e raised to I times yung 5 pi over 2, dagdagan pa natin ng 2 pi. Ilan yan? 9 pi? Tama ba? 9 pi over 2? Or e raised to 9 pi over 2 or e raised to I times 13 pi over 2. Lahat yan, and so on pa, lahat yan tumutukoy sa number na to. All of them refer to this number. So in general, we can write all of this. Okay, we can generalize the writing of this in this manner. Yung 0 plus I, okay, is equal to e, okay, raised to I pi n over 2. Ay, sorry. Okay. E raised to I times pi over 2 plus, okay, plus 2 pi n. Okay? Where n equals 0, 1, 2, and so on. I-test natin yung expression na to. When n is equal to 0, okay, when n is equal to 0, what is e raised to what is this one? So that is e raised to I times pi over 2 plus 2 pi times 0. So that should give us e raised to I pi over 2. Is that correct? Okay. Now, when n is equal to 1, okay, tingnan natin ulit ito. When n is equal to 1, tingnan natin ito. That becomes e raised to I times pi over 2, okay, plus 2 pi times 1. So that becomes e, okay, raised to I. Okay, again, this is 2 pi plus 2, pi over 2 plus 2 pi. So that should give you 5 pi over 2. So ito yung nakuha natin dito. Ayan, ito yan. And then when n is equal to 2, okay, that becomes e raised to I, okay, times pi over 2 plus 2 pi times 2. So this is 4 pi. Okay, this is 4 pi plus pi over 2. So that should be equal to e raised to I times 9 pi. Yan. Nawawala na yung sensitivity ng ano ko, tablet ko. Ayan. And so on. Okay? So again, since the exponential form or the polar form results to an ambiguous expression for a complex number, okay, we can specify all of them. Okay, we can specify all of those numbers by including this term. So, ang ibig sabihin yan, dadagdagan natin yung initial angle. This is the initial angle. Okay, or basically, we call this as the principal. We call this angle, okay? So, natin siya ulit dito, ha? This is E raised to I times pi over 2 plus 2 pi n, okay? Which all of them results to 0 plus I, okay? Itong angle na to, yung pi over 2, is called the principal angle or argument. Okay? Is that clear? When you say principal angle or principal argument, okay, it means the smallest angle that makes a complex number unique. Okay? So that is the smallest angle. Okay, that makes a complex number uniquely located on a on the Cartesian coordinate, on the Cartesian plane. Okay, so we will consider your angle, okay, between negative pi and positive pi, okay, as what we call the principal range. Okay? O kaya, later on kasi, gagamitin din natin itong same idea na to sa future courses. Tatawagin naman natin yung fundamental range. Okay? So whether it's principal range or fundamental range, okay? As long as your angle is within this range, okay? We will consider that to be as the principal angle. So that is why ito, yung pi over 2 dito, okay? This pi over 2 here is within, take note that this angle is within this range. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so that means that pi over 2 being in the principal range becomes the principal angle. Okay? So, I hope maliwanag yun. Okay? Now, if we have the notation, okay, argument, arg, okay, because this will be useful in formulas later on. So if we have the notation arg say, okay, yung arg say or the argument of say, okay, means all the angles that defines z. Okay, so in this case, okay, if you have z, okay, equals 0 plus I, which when we convert to polar form becomes e raised to I times pi over 2 plus 2 pi n for n equals 0, 1, 2, and so on. Okay? We say that arg z or the argument of z is this angle. Itong angle na to. So that means arg z here is pi over 2 plus, okay? Actually, ano to plus or minus. Okay, kasi pwede naman kayong mag-negative. And negative, going negative here means instead of actually going counterclockwise, nasaan na yung binibilugan ko kanina? Ayan. Instead of actually going this way, okay, that's 2 pi. You can also go the other way. So that gives you negative 2 pi. Okay? Maliwanag yan?
Maliwanag.
Okay, so that should make us write this as plus or minus. Okay, that should allow us to write it as plus or minus. Kasi yung n nyo pwedeng positive. So that means you're going clockwise. Or negative yung n nyo, which allows you to go kung positive siya yung n, okay, that means you're going counterclockwise. Okay? And if you have negative n, that means you're going clockwise. Okay? So, yun yung tinutukoy natin dito, kaya gagawin siyang plus or minus. Okay? So, therefore, the notation argj, okay, equals pi over 2 equals pi over 2 plus or minus 2 pi n. Yun yung argj. Okay? But if we actually want just to refer to the principal argument of pi over 2, ibig sabihin ito lang yung gusto nyong kunin. We will use the notation, or we will use the function argc with an uppercase a. So if I make this uppercase, that means I'm referring to the principal argument. Okay? This notation points to all of the angles. Okay? But if I actually just want the principal angle, I would use this notation. Okay? Is that clear? Okay, so far may questions pa kayo? Okay, gawin natin itong example 7 Let's try letter A. Okay, we evaluate e raised to 1.4 minus 0.6i. Okay, so e raised to 1.4. By the way pala, may nakalimutan pala, may isa pa pala akong gustong i-point out. Nasaan na yun? Ayun. Itong expression na to, yung e raised to, wag na yan, ito na lang pala. Itong expression na to na e raised to I times pi over 2 plus or minus 2 pi n. Okay? Pwede nyo rin siyang isulat ng ganito. This is called the functional form of the exponential function. Okay? exp, okay, of I times pi over 2 plus or minus 2 pi n. Okay? So this one or this one are acceptable notations for your exponential function. Okay, take note lang na hindi ko lang siya naisusulat dito ng tama, pero exponent to So ibig sabihin itong yung e raised to e raised to 1.4 minus 0.6i. Pag tinype ko ng tama yan, ito yung result niya. So as you can notice, yung exponent niya, mas maliit yung typeface compared dun sa font niyo. Okay, dun sa base niyo. Kasi superscript siya Okay, that is a superscript. Okay, so therefore, it should be interpreted as an exponent. Okay? Whereas pag ito isusulat ko sa kanyang exponential form. Okay, this is written as exp of 1.4 minus 0.6i. Hindi na siya exponent. Okay? Pag tinype ko yan ng tama, ganito lalabas yan. Type ko siya dito ha. That's exp. Okay, of 1.4 minus 0.5. Yan. So, yan yung proper form nung this is the proper form of this one. Kaya lang ganito ko lang kasi susulat kasi ano. Okay, so here, this is an exponent, so this is a superscript. Okay, I hope you understand what superscript is. Okay? Pero in this case, this one is not now a superscript. Ganito na siya. Okay, is that clear? Okay, so we have E. Okay, so again, I'm going back to solving this one. Okay, so we have E raised to 1.4 minus 0.6i. Okay, equals E raised to 1.4. Okay, times E raised to negative 0.6i. Okay, I just applied the exponential property. Okay, so since again x raised to m plus n equals x raised to m times x raised to n. Okay, maliwanag? Okay. Now, if we actually translate this, okay, if we actually translate this to to polar form, itong factor na to, this factor, that becomes, of course, this is e raised to 1.4. Okay, times itong factor na to is cosine of negative siya, no? May isang definition pala ako nakalimutan sa inyo. Asan na yun? Wala, ba't di siya nakalagay? Importante pa naman yun. O sige, nakalimutan ko yatang ilagay. Ilalagay ko na lang later on. Pero ito isa pa tong form. Okay, at tatandaan nyo to. E raised to negative iy. Okay, e raised to negative iy equals, okay, equals cosine of y, okay, minus I sine of y. Okay, this is the conjugate of your complex number. Take note na ito, tsaka ito are conjugates. Tama ba? Okay. Dalawa na lang yung nakikipag-interact sa akin. Okay. So kung conjugates yan, okay, it also means this one and this one are also conjugates. Okay, so again, as a note here. Okay, saan ko lalagay? Ayan, note. Okay. E raised to iy and E raised to negative iy are conjugates. Okay? So, is that clear? So, magka-conjugate yung dalawang yan. Okay, so going back to sa example natin. So, ito, since negative ito. Okay. So, this points to, becomes cosine of 0.6 minus, okay, I of sine uh, 0.6. Yan. So if I write this in rectangular form, by the way, sa mga exams and mga homeworks natin, if the problem does not state to what form the final answer should be written to, okay, you should always write it in rectangular form. Okay? Again, final answers for this kind of problem, okay, should be written in rectangular form. Okay? Unless otherwise stated by the problem kung saan nyo siya isusulat. Okay? Is that clear? Okay? So remember this. Now, if we will write this in rectangular form, then we will have to expand this expression. So that means we have to have e raised to 1.4 cosine of 0.6. Okay? Minus e raised to 1.4 sine, I, alam mo ito kung I times e raised to 1.4 times sine of 0.6. Ano ngayon yung value ng e raised to 1.4 times cosine of 0.6? Ano yung value nun? Everyone?
3.5 po, sir.
Come again? Mention na po tol.
In 35 po.
3.35.
35.
Okay. Does everyone agree? This is 3.35. Okay. So sige, may isa naman nag second. So ayun. And how about e raised to 1.4 times sine of 0.6? Ano yung value nun?
2.29 po.
That is positive?
Negative. Up.
Ganyan?
29i. Up.
Okay. So that is e. So this is e raised to 1.4 minus 0.6i equate to. Ito siya. Take note lang when you are computing this, 0.6 here is interpreted to be radians. Okay? Bakit radians yung interpretation natin dito sa 0.6? Because it came from the exponential form. And again, every value here in the exponential form, okay, if it becomes an angle measurement, okay, is measured always in radian. Okay, is that clear? Okay, so sige. Now, let us have yung letter B, this is find the product of Z1 times Z2. Okay, so let us find the product of ano yan? E raised to 2i, 2 plus I, sorry. Okay, times E raised to 4 minus I. Okay? So, this one can be written as E raised to 2, okay, times E raised to I. Tama ba? We'll multiply that with E raised to 4, okay, times E raised to negative I. Okay? Now, since all of these are multiplied, all of them are multiplied, di ba? So that is basically E raised to 2 times E raised to I times E raised to 4 times E raised to negative I. Okay? That means, pwede kong i-group ito, i-multiply itong dalawang to. So that should yield E raised to 2 plus 4. Again, using the properties of exponents. Okay? And then, I'll multiply this with the product of these two, which is E raised to I minus I. Okay? Is that clear? So that so this now becomes E raised to this term, or I mean this factor. Okay? Okay, this factor becomes E raised to 6. Okay? And then multiply this with, this one is E raised to 0 because this is I minus I. So I minus I is 0. So this is E raised to 0. And to what value does E raised to 0 equate to?
1.
So E raised to 0 is equal to 1. So therefore, this is E raised to 6 times 1. Okay? Or simply, the product Z1 times Z2 equals E raised to E raised to 6. Baka kailangan ko nang bumili ng ano. Yung there is a parang gloves. Kasi parang hindi na masyadong sensitive yung tablet ko. Okay. Ayan. So, this is for letter B. Ayan siya, E raised to 6. Okay? Is that clear? Okay, and then finally for letter C, we are asked to solve for Z in the value in the equation E raised to Z equals 3 plus 4i. Okay, we are asked to solve for the value of Z. So, ganito gawin natin, no? Since the left side is on the exponential form, okay, let us also try to, let us convert this right side into its exponential form. Okay, so in this case, what is the value of R? for this number?
Five po.
That is 5. Okay? And then what is the value of theta? Or I should say, the value of the theta that is within the principal range. Again, the principal range is negative pi up to positive pi. So first, determine the value of theta that is within this range. Okay? So again, simply use the arctangent. Hanapin nyo siya sa kung saan quadrant siya. Okay, and then find the acute angle associated with this one. Nasaan quadrant to?
First quadrant po.
Okay, so we're looking for this angle. Kasi yung 3, ito yung 3 plus 4i. Plus 4i. This is your angle. So, anong angle yan?
3.13 po.
But we need that in radians. Kasi we're converting to to exponential form. So, we need that angle in radian. So that is 53.3 degrees. But in radians, because we need it in radians, that should be
0.93.
0.93. Pero bigyan niyo ako ng kasi here's the thing. You'd be using these numbers. Okay, you'd be using these numbers in subsequent computations. Okay? Gagamitin niyo pa tong mga numbers na to in subsequent computations. Okay. Now, we want our final answer to be correct in 2 decimal places. Dapat tama yung first 2 decimal places niya. Okay? So, if you're using this number, okay, in a future in a subsequent calculation, kailangan gumamit kayo ng number of decimal places that is greater than what you need in the final answer. So kung kailangan natin ng 2 decimal places sa final answer, we need more than 2 certain digits in this number. So bigyan niyo ako kahit mga 4 decimal places. This is 0.9
9273 po.
73. Okay. Ito kasi yung explanation doon. Pag pinang-compute nyo kasi to, okay? Itong digit kasi na to rounded off. That number is rounded off. Tawag natin diyan sa sa previous courses niyo, uncertain uncertain digit. Okay. Ngayon, pag ginamit nyo kasi ito sa subsequent calculations. Okay, if you use that in the subsequent calculations, itong uncertain digit na to always contains an error. Kasi ni-round off nyo yan eh. So it's either 2 yan, okay? 2 yan or 3 yan. So it's uncertain kasi nga rounded off siya. Okay? Pero as you can notice na ito yung uncertain. Okay? In the final answer, if you can protect this digit from being uncertain, kasi hindi kayo magra-round off dito sa simula, you would be sure that this second digit is correct. Okay? Naintindihan yan? Yung konsepto na yan? Okay? So if you have a number, actually pag-uusapan natin ito sa laboratory niyo next time. Part ito ng ng approximation and round off error. Okay? So if you want your final answer to be correct to 2 decimal places, okay? Use numbers with higher precision, okay? In your calculations. Okay? So, ayun. So, dapat at least 4 decimal, 3 or 4 decimal places to. Kung gusto niyo tama itong second decimal place. Okay? So, ayun. Going back. Okay. So, we know that yung 3 plus 4i, okay, we know that 3 plus 4i equals 5e raised to 0.9273i. Okay, again, ang polar po, ang exponential form, okay, ng complex number, okay, ang exponential form ng complex number is r e raised to theta I. Okay, is that clear? Okay. Now, your e raised to z, okay, and if z equals x plus iy, okay, if your z is x plus iy, okay, that means that e raised to z equals e raised to x plus iy, okay, which is also equal to e raised to x, okay, times e raised to iy. Is that clear? Kanina ko pa sinasabi yan, yung sa umpisa pa ng lesson natin. Pino-point out natin yan. Okay? And since this is equal to 3 plus 4i, which in exponential form is 5e raised to 0.9273i, okay? Comparing the left side and the right side, okay? If you compare the left side and the right side, that should give you e raised to x equals 5. Tama? And e raised to iy equals e raised to 0.9273i. Okay? Now, how do we solve for x here? Kasi kailangan ko i-solve yung x at saka y para makuha ko yung x at saka y nito para makuha ko yung z. So how do I solve x here? That is? Sorry, medyo na po doon.
ln po ng e-raised to 6 ng
Okay. So what is Miss Aguilar is suggesting is we get the natural logarithm of both sides. Okay, kunin daw natin, parang ang gusto niya sabihin dito is we get the we get the natural logarithm of e raised to x and the natural logarithm of 5. Okay? Because the natural logarithm of e raised to x is simply x. Again, that's a logarithmic property. Properties ng exponential and logarithm set. Okay? It actually starts from, paki-review na lang to ha. It actually starts from your exponent being a multiplier, and this becomes natural logarithm of e, and that the natural logarithm of e is 1. So therefore, that becomes x times 1, which is equal to x. So that means that ln of e, the natural logarithm of e raised to x, is simply equal to x. And this is equal to the natural logarithm of 5. Is that clear? Okay. So we'll leave this as it's not natural in this form. Okay, so that number one, natin kailangan mag-compute. Number two, this is more accurate than actually expressing it as a decimal. Okay? So, kasi irrational number to eh. So, that would result to rounding off error kapag kinompute nyo to in decimal. So, we'll leave it as ln of 5. Okay? And how about y? When you compare these two, what is y?
Zero 0.9273 po, sir.
Okay. 0.9273. Okay? So, actually, ganito yan. If your z, okay, if your z is equal to x plus iy, okay, that means, based from the values that you obtain here, your z, okay, your z is equal to ln of 5, that is your x, okay, plus 0.9273i. Okay, so that's the value of your z. Again, ang objective natin for this problem is to solve for z. Is that clear? Okay. But wait, there's more. Merong isang dito. Okay, may isang konting twist dito. Okay. Remember that, again, since you have written this part, this complex number in exponential form, okay, y here is actually periodic. Again, as we have stated kanina, binigyan natin ng mahaba-habang discussion yun, that e raised to y, e raised to iy is cosine of y plus I sine of y. Okay? And that we consider this to be a repeating function. Therefore, if we actually get the argument or the angle of e raised to iy, that should give you y plus or minus 2 pi n, for n equals 0, 1, and 2. Okay? Kung kukunin natin yung argument nito. So that means this argument, okay, or this y is not unique. In fact, sabi ko nga kanina, ito lang yung principal value niya. Because that value falls within the principal range. Okay? So how do we report this as to include all the answers or all of the possible answers? Kailangan dagdagan natin to ng term na 2 pi n. Okay? Kagaya nito. Ito yung y nyo. So this is the principal value. Plus or minus 2 pi n for n equals 0, 1, 2, and so on. Okay? Is that clear? So, we report now your final answer in this manner. Okay, kasi pag ang nilagay nyo lang dyan, yung answer na binigay natin kanina, that just gives you the principal value of z. Okay? That just gives you the principal value of z. Okay, but if we actually write this as 0.9273 plus or minus 2 pi n times I for n equals 0, 1, 2, and so on. That gives you the complete set of answers. Ibig sabihin lahat yan possible values of Z. Okay? Is that clear? Now, ito pala, additional points. Ano ngayon ang pinagkaiba nito nung number na to sa number na to? Okay? Notice na ngayon, itong Z ninyo is in rectangular form. Notice that it is now in rectangular form. Yan, nasa rectangular form yan. At ano ang sabi natin tungkol sa uniqueness ng complex number when it is written in rectangular form? Okay? If you recall, sabihin ko na lang, if you recall that each number written in each complex each complex number written in rectangular form is unique. Okay? It is unique. Therefore, every n na isa-substitute nyo dito actually results to a unique value of Z. Okay? It actually results to a unique value of Z. For example, yung ln of 5 plus 0.9273 I is one possible answer. And so is ln of 5 plus 0.9273 plus 2 pi times I. And so is ln of 5 plus 0.92 73 plus 4 pi times I. Okay, and so on. Bawat isang yan ay unique number. It means this number is different from this one and it's different from this one. Okay? But if each of these numbers is substituted to the original equation, okay, pag itong number na to, for example, sinubstitute nyo dito, it should result to 3 plus 4i. In the same manner, kahit itong number na to, ang isubstitute nyo dito, again, these two are different numbers, okay? Even if they are different numbers, pag ito, sinubstitute nyo dito sa Z, again, that should still give you 3 plus 4i. And so on. Okay? So, it means that there are multiple values of Z that can satisfy this equation. Okay? Parang ano lang yan, yung x square equals 4. Alam natin na dalawang values ang pwede mag-satisfy sa equation na yan. In the same manner, ganun din ito. Okay? There are multiple values that can actually satisfy this equation. Okay? Is that clear? Okay. So, ayun. So, I hope that you will be able to interpret these things correctly. Okay? Mainly because, okay, it is really necessary that these are understood by you, yung concepts, especially with regards to the yung ambiguity caused by converting your number from rectangular form to complex form. Okay? So that in the future, in the subsequent lessons, you'll be able to interpret the results correctly. Okay? So, ayun. So, actually, I was expecting that I would be finishing these 3 topics. Okay, in-expect ko medyo matatapos ko siya. Okay? Kaya lang medyo malaking time yung dinevote ko to explain the concepts of this one. So, okay lang naman. as long as you are able to understand these things, okay, lahat ng napag-usapan natin today, I'm okay with that kahit na matagalan tayo. Okay, ang importante, itong part na to ma-master niyo because this is something that is really important for you to grasp. Okay, yung konsepto nito kailangan mag-grasp niyo talaga. Mag-grasp niyo talaga. Okay? But here's the thing. We need to move next week, we need to move to second topic. Okay? So which means I might be leaving this next two topics into your own studying. Okay? Pero sige, mamaya wala akong class. I mean naka-asynchronous learning ako sa kabilang class ko. So I'd be trying to record yung lecture para dito, then I'll upload it later. Okay? So ayun. Para meron din kayong guide. Okay? So that, ayun. So I think that ends up yung kasi overtime na ako ng 2 minutes. So that ends up the meeting natin for today. Okay? So again, I hope that you would be studying these two topics, remaining topics. Okay? So that magawa niyo yung homework niyo. Okay? And meron ba kayong questions or anything you want to clarify? Okay, going once, going twice. Okay, so wala naman. Okay, so we dismiss the class for today. I will make an announcement kung kailangan natin mag-synchronous meeting sa Tuesday. And also ito pala, sa Sunday pala, wala tayong synchronous meeting. Asynchronous learning tayo sa Sunday. Okay? So wala tayong synchronous meeting sa Sunday. Asynchronous tayo. Okay? And then I'll make an announcement before Tuesday if we need to have a synchronous session. Okay, kasi I was thinking that I would record yung lecture para sa topics na to for next meeting. Then I'll allow your Tuesday to be used for that one. For that purpose. Okay, and then we'll meet on Friday para i-address ko siguro yung ibang questions niyo should you have some questions. Okay? So abang kayo ng announcement by Monday or Tuesday. May synchronous meeting tayo sa Tuesday. Okay? So that ends our class today. Thank you for attending and sorry at overtime ako ng 4 minutes. Okay?
Thank you, sir.
Okay, so pa-leave na lang sa meeting.
Okay lang, sir.
Thank you po.
Okay, sige, ingat kayo.
Salamat po, sir.
Okay. Pa-leave na lang sa meeting. Thank you.